Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Pivotal Change. This is a show all about leadership, developing business owners, leaders, entrepreneurs, and people who are or desire to be in positions of influence. I always encourage you to watch this show with a pen and paper nearby so that you can take notes and find out those specific things that you need to learn to make your pivotal change. We have a very exciting episode tonight, and I have a couple of special guests. My first guest tonight is Talyn Rahman Figueroa. Now, she is a very interesting lady because she is a former diplomat. She is an entrepreneur's entrepreneur because she helps other business leaders and owners brand themselves, get their images out there. And she's also known as the fairy boss mother. So, Talyn, thank you for coming on the show tonight.
Hey, welcome, Fairy Boss Mother here. Nice to see you, Ryan.
Well, what I like to do is just because we are bound by time windows, I like to jump right into things. So what I want to do is I want the audience to get to know you a little bit better. So you have told me on the side that it's very important for business owners to look good, to be able to impact people with what is their brand. So tell us a little bit more about what does that mean and what do you do with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a personal brand consultant, one of the things that I look out for and help my business owners is you are the founder, you're the business owner, but you're completely faceless. You're a ghost in your business, and no one actually knows who owns this business and runs it. I see so many entrepreneurs say we when they're talking about their business, and especially if you're a solopreneur, you're the only person in the room. Who are we talking to? Why are you creating a division between yourself and your ideal client by saying we and being completely faceless? So I put business owners in front of their business because at the end of the day, you are the reason why someone chose to work with you, not the company that you represent.
I like that a lot, making sure that you are the face of your business. And we talk about having a team and being a service minded leader and stuff like that. But that is different than when it comes to establishing yourself, establishing your brand and what you do and the high value services you provide. So, what are some of the key qualities that a leader might need to develop in order to create a compelling brand for themselves?
Yeah. So one of the things that you have to get used to is start to get tolerant with being discomfortable or uncomfortable. That discomfort is how you grow as a person and your business, because your business, if it's going really, really well, then you have other goals in your business. You have to move along with it. You don't want to be in a position where your business is growing so quickly and it's leaving you behind because someone is eyeing it up, want to buy it, want to do something with that, and you are left out of the equation. Now, when you build a powerful personal brand in your business, your name is the thing that carries your business forward. And then your personal brand becomes your greatest asset because guess what? Your personal brand evolves with you, with your experience, with your growth, with all the things that's happening in your life, business and personally. So you are the brand that is bringing customers, bringing clients, attracting new opportunities in and out of your business. And that's because of you. So what better investment than investing in yourself?
I really like the developing yourself. And I want to pull out a phrase that you said during that beautiful response is that your brand will grow and develop with you as you grow and develop as a leader. And so as you seek to improve your hard skills, your soft skills, and your brand, your brand will grow with you, I guess, so long as it's established with somebody that can help you build it like yourself. So that solo entrepreneur, that solopreneur, they identify something in themselves that sets them apart. Maybe they don't know exactly what that is. Maybe they're just kind of good at a thing and they've made it a business. What is it that is there a process or something that you do with them to help them identify what sets them apart and bring that to the surface?
Yeah, I have a full 100-day process in how I build a personal brand for individuals from start to finish. So there's a three-step part. First, we need to find out more about you. What is your backstory? Why did you start this business? Are you putting so much of your time into this enterprise? Because Ryan, you could have chosen anything to work with, any industry to work in. So why this one? And that's a natural question that a lot of your audience will have about you, and then find out a little bit more about you. Why are you the expert that I should go to compared to all of your other competitors? And this is where your story is incredibly important, right? There's things that happened with you in the past that challenged you. You overcame those challenges. Then it's your triumph of how you overcame this very specific problem. And based on this solution that you found for yourself, you built a business. those are the 3-step part that I build the foundations of a personal brand. And then that's how you integrate your services, your products, your pricing structures, and figure out exactly who your target audience is.
I like it. I like that a lot. And I think, something that really strikes a chord with me is of that 3-part process. One that I really find lacking even in our line of business is we consult and, we largely coach people on best practices for businesses, building their teams, and of course, tax strategy and saving money and being able to move the arrow up and to the right. And of course, in order to move the arrow up and to the right, they need help from people like you. But circling around, you said the self-reflection side of things. They probably haven't asked themselves that really difficult question. Why am I actually doing what I'm doing? Is it just to pursue the dollar, or is there something more to it? Is there a passion connected to it? Is there a service connected to it? What's the backstory? Is it a family legacy? And you're going to pull that out of them because maybe they haven't pulled that out of themselves yet. And I just think leaning on experts is really important for people that are trying to take themselves to the next level. So speaking of taking to the next level, we really want to focus in on image and what does it take to establish an image. And you used a word called a premium brand. So everyone probably has a brand by default because they are who they are. What makes that image go to premium?
Premium. Now, this is where we talk about dollars, right? You could be a $5 brand or you could be a $20,000 brand. Now, which one would you pick, right? You have the dollar store or you have, Harrods in the UK. It's an easy choice. There's a price point for everyone. There's a type of service for everyone, but you don't service everyone. You service very specific types of people. And usually it's going to be people like you, people who had similar experiences, who experienced the same problems that you did. They just don't have the solution. You do, right? And when it comes to image, let's specifically talk about visual image. There's so many business owners who think they have to dress professionally in order to show up in their own business. Look, if you work for yourself, you are not in the corporate world where you have to stick to certain rules. So why are you dressing like that? And that's a question that I ask a lot of my clients. I've had physical therapists who wear a t-shirt with a logo of their business, which is fine because you're representing your business. But then one day when they're presenting or doing some sort of keynote speech, with other like-minded people, they're in a suit and all of a sudden I don't know who this person is. So how you dress, it shows off your personality, but you have to dress to your lifestyle as well. So when you're suddenly going from casual to ultra like corporate looking, I'm kind of like, I don't know who I'm talking to today. It's like talking to someone with split personalities. So being consistent in your brand image, this is how you become memorable and people actually start taking you seriously.
I like that a lot. I like the mention of consistency. And of course, you drove it home to how you dress, but there's going to be a lot more, I'm sure, to the consistency side of running a successful business, being a leader, and having that premium brand. So those are really good highlights that I appreciate you drawing out. So when I want to get down on the strategic side of things, if I want to say, hey, as a leader, I want to really have the consistency in promoting myself. And again, you mentioned how you dress. In that personal brand, how important is it to find something that resonates with your target audience? Or is it more about this is who I am, take me or leave me? Or is it a blend of the two?
Look, forget about your target audience. The people that you're going to attract are going to be the people that you really want to work with. So don't conform yourself to what other people think you should dress, act, and look. You just be yourself because those are the people that are going to appreciate you, respect you, love what you bring to the table. And then, of course, pay what you charge. So they're not going to negotiate you down and haggle you down because that's what a lot of individuals are experiencing right now. I have so many clients who were charging $50 per hour. And I asked them, why are you charging per hour? Charge per service. So they moved from charging $50 per hour to $2,500 for one client. That's a massive difference because now you're showing off your value, using yourself in your life experience as an example. You're not afraid to show up as yourself. You're not conformed to someone else's idea of what someone in your industry should look and behave like. And on top of that, you've justified how you are the expert because you are working on a problem plus solution formula now. They have a problem, you have the solution. And that's why you're the expert to fix that problem. And that's why you charge what you charge. So I don't like it when my clients undercharge themselves. I raise their value, and that's through your personal brand.
I think you just said the magic word for our industry. We went from an hourly, what I call a tax factory based model several years ago, to an advisory and value based model. And I think to really hammer your point home, because what you're saying, I really think needs to be rung over and over and over until it echoes in the audience's ears, is that it's more about value, right? You are giving a value proposition, a value package, a value product or service. And the clients that you identify with, is what I'm hearing you say, is that they will see your value and pay for your value instead of just some transaction like I'm buying your time. And that's what we're going for with this premium brand. Is that correct?
No more transactional relationship. This is now a relationship where like for like people are going to be working with you, finding you, seeking you out. You can't do that without personal brand, because you can have a successful business where you're relying on retainer clients, but unfortunately what happens is you're relying on a team now to service the volumes of clients that you have, but then you become more and more invisible in your business. Now, when you flip it, when you're starting off with a very strong personal brand, it takes slightly slower to build up that client base, because you don't need 100 clients anymore. You only need 5 or 6, because that will hit the big numbers. And guess what, Ryan? You've just freed up so much of your time, your work-life balance. You're working less and you're doing life more, because you have a personal brand that only attracts the best clients into your business. You're already pre-qualifying people.
That's a good place for me to jump in, because I want to make a point about that. Because here in just a minute, I want to talk about the result of a personal brand, and that is work-life balance and a couple of other key indicators. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a pin in that right here, because we got to cut to a commercial break, and everyone sit tight, because we're going to get more Talon when we come back on Pivotal Change right after this. Welcome back to Pivotal Change, and thank you for sticking with us through the break. We are coming once again with Talyn from Boss Diplomat, also known as the Fairy Boss Mother. And what I did is I put a little pin in the conversation where we began talking about the results, which is work-life balance, time freedom, and several other positive things that occur when you brand yourself and make these changes. But I want to swing this conversation to when we were talking about those things. You had a whole life before you became this big brand ambassador, in a political life relating to diplomacy and things like that. Tell us about your background and what your work-life balance was, and the difference back then to what you are now and where you get your clients to be as well.
Yeah, so this is where the name Boss Diplomat came from, because I was a trained diplomat, and I was planning to join the government as a civil servant in diplomacy. But there were so many ethical dilemmas going on, Ryan, and I just thought, wow, I can't be the voice box of my government, because I will never be able to represent myself. I will never be able to say I in my life. It will always be we, representing somebody else's ideas. So my mentor, who was a British ambassador, he was the one that suggested that I start my own consultancy, where I can actually advise and consult to politicians and diplomats with their personal brand. I actually inadvertently grew my personal brand, so I can sit at their table. There were politicians and diplomats with like really high ranking officials who wanted to meet me. And back then I was like, I'm nobody. Like, these people don't, how do they know me? And it's because I built a personal brand. So that was really my shortcut to getting on the same level, in the same seats as these individuals with the biggest names, the biggest titles.
That is really fantastic. And I like what you just said there. By building my own personal brand, it was like my shortcut for sitting with these bigger players at the bigger table. And we had talked before where you said I have swam in some pretty deep waters with some of these larger political situations, larger scale people. And as you may or may not be aware of, there's a pretty major election going on in the United States right now, which we don't need to comment on. But you can see on both sides of the table how important personal branding is, and even the brand attacks that happen across the aisle. So in branding, what do we do when our brand comes under attack?
Hey, you know what? Your brand is the thing that is actually protecting you. So I actually did an Instagram reel about Donald Trump, and no matter how much backlash he's getting from people, his personal brand is the thing that is protecting him the most, because he set up certain values associated to him. He has a certain look that he never derails from. Like, you will never see him dress a certain way outside of what he puts himself out into the public. He's always going to be talking the same, irrespective of what information is coming at him. That's personal brand in action right there. So it does protect you. Your personal brand also shortcuts 10, it shakes like 10 years of your life. You're actually 10 years ahead of your competitors because you've built a brand that is completely untouchable. Because guess what? Your story and everything about you cannot be copied. Your services, your business and your models, your processes and timeline, all of those can be copied. So you're actually the one thing that no one can copy. And when someone does try to copy you, it is very obvious that they're trying to mimic you and be like you.
I like that a lot. I like the 10-year shortcut. One of the things that we do is Wayne and I, we like to thread a lot of humor as a part of our personal brand. And we make fun of ourselves and we call ourselves knuckleheads and things like that. And not to truly self-deprecate, but to prove the point that if I have a program and a way that I'm teaching you, I want you to learn. It took me 2.5 years to truly put this program together and figure it out. And I want you to do it in 2.5 months, right? So I want you to have a shortcut. And a shortcut of 10 years is just unfathomable for most people, but it is a reality if you personally brand the right way. And I love the way that you pointed out that regardless of the attacks and what happens in life, the unique individual is the one thing that cannot be replaced. So let's go along with that personal image and the amount of influence that it has. If I want to truly seek to establish my brand, do I just need to kind of like start locally and try to become a local celebrity, a regional celebrity, nationally known, globally known? How much of a bite do I take in the beginning when setting up my brand?
Okay, so that's a little bit of a misconception of you becoming a celebrity. That is not the point of having a personal brand, right? Your personal brand, again, is one of your greatest assets because it's you. You can have a personal brand when you're in a corporate world. You can have a personal brand when you're running a business. You can have a personal brand as a student. It doesn't matter. What we're looking for is what is the intention behind your personal brand. For the clients that I work with, it's about making an impact beyond making dollars. So, you can have business owners say, who say, I want to make $200,000 by the end of the year. And then that needle moves to 300, 400, 6, 7, 8, 9 figures. That needle's always going to move, but where's the impact to the work that you're doing? That's the end goal for the personal brands that I'm building. It's, okay, you're making all this money, then what? Now what? Now what do we do with it? Where's your legacy? And your personal brand is the legacy that is going to remain after you're gone. And that's something that a lot of business owners want, and they don't know how to get it.
I love it. So again, the misconception of personal brand is I want to be famous, social media influencer, a celebrity, and that's not the point. The point is that you can have an impact and that you can make a difference and leave a legacy. And that is the truest version of what it is to have a premium brand. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's a lot of people who, again, they don't want to be the face. They're very scared of showing up, and they just want to serve the people that they're trying to help with their services, with their products, or whatever the case may be. But, they don't see themselves as celebrities. In your inner circle, though, your name is going to be the critical reason why people are referring business to you, because of that trust factor, the fact that they know you, they trust you, they know your backstory, they can relate to you. You become someone relatable, someone that they can open up to. Guess what? Your value goes up. We want to ensure that you're not charging and chasing after $1 clients anymore. We want you to have a life outside of work. And for a lot of solopreneurs, I don't like that hustle and grind culture. I encourage my clients to move out of that. And the way they do that is by working with me with that 100 days. But yeah, I absolutely abhor the hustle culture. And I think that's a very American thing, because in the UK it's very different. But I want to see people enjoy their life outside of work. Work shouldn't be the thing that you wake up for.
I love that. Work definitely should not be the thing that you wake up for. You should have a whole lot more things, much higher priority than what you work. And I really appreciate you pointing out is, if I've been able to expand my services over the year, I've had a lot more international interactions. And one thing that I can truly attest to is that the American work culture is definitely different than a lot of the European models. I've had a lot of South American friends and peers as well. And that's a little different, a little bit more of the hustle and grind there, but there's also a different personality to that culture. And so one of the things that I think is important as we talk about different cultures and personalities and setting your brand and your time freedom is, how do I do that and maintain my authentic self the entire time? If I get more brand recognition, if I get more money, if I become bigger, does that change who I am? Does it exaggerate who I am? Do I become my unauthentic self? What do we do to guard against that?
No, absolutely not. So this is what we call, having an ego. You want to have your ego in check and make sure that you don't have a big head when you're working with people or when you get bigger. And I think your audience is constantly going to remind you of that. The reason why you started is because of this. So this is why having an impact-driven business and your personal brand, attach your personal brand to something bigger than yourself is very important. But you're using yourself as an example of how you want to work with people, how you want to be perceived, right? Let's look at Tony Robbins as an example. One of the most famous motivational speaker on earth, right? He's American, and he's been doing this work for a really long time. But he's very consistent with his messaging, no matter what platform he's on, no matter what country he's in, no matter how big his audience is. That consistency has been with him for the last 30, 40, however many years. And that's why he is as popular as he is, because his message doesn't change. It just gets bigger and bigger with regards to the impact that he's making. I think that's what we should aspire to do.
I think that's awesome. You stay authentic by recognizing what impact you want to have by doing your work, and you just let that impact grow, and that keeps you authentic. That's pretty fantastic. So let me do this. One last question for you, just kind of a quick response here. But if you were going to take that pen and paper that the audience is watching the show with and say, write down one thing that you can change today, what one thing are you going to tell that audience member that's watching to change, to look for, or start working on?
This is an easy one. I want you to get your phone out. I want you to set it away and sit on a chair. And I want you to record yourself talking about why you started what you did. Completely unfiltered, like you're just talking to yourself. And I want you to keep talking for half an hour and just see what comes out of it. Wow. Then what I want you to do is watch over that recording and see where the aha moments are, because you're going to see what your true intentions are. Is it money or is it something greater? I did the same thing, Ryan. I kept telling my audience, I hate being invisible. I hate being a ghost. But when I did my why video, I burst out crying. And I'm someone who never cries. I was crying, saying, I hate the hustle and grind culture that my husband is in. I want to retire him. That's my why. And I want to be so successful that I can hire out all of my family member, spend all of my time with them and not work as hard. That was my why.
So Talyn, how do people find you? I've been impressed with you. I guarantee some of our audience is impressed with you. How, if we want to work with you and start pushing our brand forward, how do we find you? How do we get a hold of you?
Easy. I'm everywhere. So just type in Boss Diplomat, bossdiplomat.com. And my Instagram is Boss Diplomat. You'll find everything you need, but go on the website, book a free mini brand session with me. You get one-on-one 30-minute consultation. So I'll do a little brand audit to see, where do you rock and what things do you need to improve on. If you're on Instagram, DM me at Boss Diplomat. That's the easiest way to get my attention as well.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. And everyone else, sit right tight. We've got 2 more segments with another great guest, and we'll be right back with more Pivotal Change. Welcome back from the break. We are back with more Pivotal Change and tonight's next guest. I'm very excited to introduce everyone to Ryan Herpin. He is the owner of Impact Strategies Consulting, and he is a fantastic operations leader, leadership development, and he really comes in there and he helps construct the path forward for your companies and develop people to make sure that, well, your results are non-negotiable. So he wants to make it that way and let you achieve your results. So Ryan, thank you for coming on the show, sir.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here.
Well, Ryan, what I like to do is, other than recognize that you have probably the best name in the United States, is I like to move forward, and I like to go and jump straight into the questions because we are always bound by the commercial breaks. And I want to ask you just straight up front about operational strategies. So our listeners watch this show, if they listen to what I say, with a pen and paper. So hopefully what you say will get captured more than just in a digital footprint. But on operational strategies, tell us some of the key ones that people need to implement so they can achieve that long-term success.
Perfect. Achieving long-term success requires leaders to prioritize continuous improvement, set clear performance metrics, and build a culture of accountability. Regularly reviewing and optimizing processes really ensures agility, right? Allowing the company to adapt to change without losing momentum. Leaders should also encourage innovation where teams feel empowered to explore new ideas, helping the business remain competitive and resilient.
Ooh, I like that. I like what you said about agility. So I'm a big time, long time athlete. I'm a coach of a wrestling team. So agility is important. And I tell my kids, hey, look, if you are strong, good for you, you'll have some success. If you have some really great technique, you'll have some success. But if you're agile and have the ability to adapt and reflect on yourself, you're going to have that long term and a higher level of success. So I'm going to spin off this a little bit here. Tell me more about adaptation. When you say adaptation, what do business leaders need to be considering when they're looking for adaptation?
So to be adaptable, you've got to have an open mindset and be completely prepared to make fast-paced changes. When a challenge arises, if you're so focused and living in chaos, there's no way you can jump back to 10,000 feet, look at the picture overall, and make appropriate changes that are not just haphazard, right? Agility is having a team with a mindset of problem, okay, let's start looking at solution and implementation now.
I like that. I like that a lot. So a little bit of having your head on a swivel. Going back to kind of your first response, one thing that I always tell people is once you become satisfied with yourself, you stop improving. And I don't mean satisfied with, you've come a long way, you've done a good job, but you just meander, you become complacent. And so being adaptable, looking for change, and then grabbing a hold of that problem and moving forward with initiative, that's fantastic advice. So talking about some of that initiative and some of that development and change, how can a company then kind of ensure that their leadership development side of it is aligned with that overall goal, that overall sustainability?
Leadership development must start with a deep understanding of the company's core mission and vision. By training leaders to embody and advocate for these foundational goals, companies create alignment between leadership and strategy. Development programs should be tailored, focusing on skills that address current challenges and equip leaders to drive future growth, ensuring that the company evolves. Its leaders are well prepared to guide that progression.
Okay, so driving future growth, making sure you have that mindset. I heard you mention getting aligned with the vision. I love that.
Mhm.
I preach mission and vision and core values all the time. So you are definitely speaking my language. And so again, that driving growth, we're not trying to, hey, we've made it. Let's just hold what we got and settle. We're always looking to increase and improve. I
Mhm.
love that. You're hitting a really good chord with me. So kind of in that organizational structure where you're setting up the initiative and the growth, streamlining process is going to be important. Boosting profitability is always nice over time. What are you going to say is what are a couple of key organizational structures you need to have in place to capture that mindset and get to that profitability and that streamlining of processes?
So, in effective structure, it clarifies roles, reduces redundancies, and enables quicker decision making, which all contribute to higher productivity. By organizing teams based on workflow and expertise, companies can eliminate bottlenecks and foster collaboration. This streamlined approach not only improves efficiency, but also reduces cost, directly boosting profitability.
Okay, so this is really good. So reducing redundancies. When you are looking for redundancies, you have to do exactly that. You have to be examining yourself on a regular basis. Is that kind of something I'm hearing you echo?
Yes, definitely. It's constant review and reflection.
Gotcha. So we want to fight the I finally arrived mentality to where we become complacent. Good. Okay. I like this, Ryan. Again, you're hitting the nail on the head. So let's talk about maybe some balance. So if a business owner feels like they're kind of pursuing that revenue growth and they're always driving for initiative and change, can we sometimes get out of alignment and get unhealthy in changing for the sake of change or changing too often? And then what does that do to our work-life balance in our teams with morale?
So this is such a good question, and it's something that comes up a lot for me. The key is creating boundaries and setting realistic expectations. Leaders should build systems that drive productivity without relying on those extended hours, like prioritizing automation for repetitive tasks and delegating efficiently. By fostering a culture that values efficiency and well-being, business owners can pursue growth without compromising the health and balance of their team. And that ultimately helps achieve that sustainable success.
Gotcha. So the health and well-being of the team, I think, is absolutely fantastic. So tell me, if you find yourself where employees are more disgruntled, people are calling in sick at a really high level, maybe there's some pretty frequent turnover. What is that? Those are symptoms. What is that telling the business owner if they're doing the self-reflection that you're saying? I have these negative symptoms. What might be going on?
So a really good thing to look at is the overall atmosphere. If you've got a lot of people that are not, if you don't see camaraderie in your business, that's a huge red flag. It really truly is, because a well-defined business should operate a lot like a family, right? And the leader really operates as the parent. Your job is to pay attention to the success of your team and really genuinely care about their well-being. So if you feel it, really statistically, if you just see the data start changing, people calling out, those types of things, you've got to be ready to make adjustments and maybe have a meeting with everyone saying, hey, I notice you. I recognize your labors. Let's take a step back, take a deep breath, and find a better way to do this.
Okay, I like this a lot. So taking a step back, catching your breath, we call that a tactical pause in my old line of work. And so I really like calling everyone in the room, and you're basically naming the problem. Hey, I recognize your labors. I recognize that we're stressed out right now, and hopefully there's a promise or an example or an opportunity for change and improvement. And do you think that falls back to lining everyone with the vision? The reason we're grinding so hard in this moment or we're suffering right now is because we're at the hump of achieving this goal. Does that remotivate people? Does that help draw people back in alignment, or does that seem like false promises? Expand on that a little.
So, with every business I have ever worked with, consistent results come with transparency. And that also significantly impacts the employee engagement and the work-life balance. If the entire entity can see the same vision, the same goals, and see the progress towards those, it can maintain momentum and motivation. So it is definitely key to have that transparency and not allow yourself to get too focused on results. If your team's struggling, those results are going to fall off.
I got you. Okay, I like transparency. I'm big on transparency. So let's dial in the transparency of maybe the atmosphere, but the transparency of the leader. As a leader, is it healthy? Is it okay for me to step up and say, hey guys, I made a mistake. I'm human. I screwed up, but here's the way I want to fix it? Or should a leader just try to eat it and move on and make corrections? Which one do you find is better for culture, morale, and ultimately the followers?
So that's so important to really understand, because we are all human. We are all people. As a leader, yes, you have to be strong. You have to be the foundation of the business, but ultimately you have a team that you're not just supporting, they're supporting you. That transparency and that in admitting to struggle or mistakes or whatever it may be is only going to build trust, relationship with your team. When you have a team that sees you're human and feels your pain, they'll go to bat for you every single time. You'll get a different level of motivation when they can really stand behind their leaders. The difference between a leader and a boss, not barking orders, but leading by example and admitting to your faults and your own struggles.
I like that. Thank you for pointing out the difference between a leader and a boss. That's something that comes up. And I think, there's a difference between a leader and a manager as well. And I think if we start to understand that the human component is what separates us from a boss or a manager and then into a leader, that's what draws us in there together. And if you're open to admitting your mistakes, you're not the tyrant in the ivory tower that's somehow
Yep.
seen to be, impervious to error or correction. And you can now own your situation. And what does that make us think? We're going to probably be cared for, genuinely cared for by our leader, because he sees that we're going to make a mistake too. And that if I forgive him, he might forgive me. We can build, you said the word camaraderie earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Does this start to put dominoes in a line where they knock down to what is ultimately a pretty picture of success?
Yes, I would say it is one of the most critical aspects of long-term success in a business. The business is only as good or as strong as its people. The business cannot operate without its people. So if you don't have that level of trust, respect, and care for each other, it can't work. It won't. A house divided against itself cannot stand. And the house is the people. The business is just the avenue that they can grow, develop, and become the best version of themselves.
Oh, I think that's beautiful, and that's actually a great place for me to jump in and hit us for our next commercial break. But we're going to be back with more Ryan, and we're going to have a continuing conversation about this business leadership and these in-depth conversations about what gets you to that long-term success. So everyone, sit tight. We'll be right back with our final session of the night on Pivotal Change. We are back for the final segment of the night, and we are ready to rock and roll with more Ryan Herpin and his excellent advice and the value that he is dropping into this interview tonight. So we're going to jump right back in because we've only got a little bit of time before everything's over for the evening. So Ryan, I want to talk about some specific qualities. I want to know, and the audience wants to know about the essential qualities that you're going to look to build into a strong leadership team. And that way the business can use those qualities to foster and achieve that long-term success we've been talking about.
Yeah, a strong leadership team is adaptable, strategic, and deeply aligned with the company's vision. Leaders should possess resilience, integrity, and a focus on growth, not only for the business, but for their teams. Fostering these qualities requires continuous development, mentorship, and regular performance reviews, where leaders are encouraged to self-reflect and improve. This builds a team that's both committed and capable of steering the company towards sustained success.
I like that a lot. So I want to point out some highlights because you hit many things, which is exactly what I asked you to do, but the continued development. So I heard a very good mentor of mine say that the best welfare for the troops and the employees is world-class training to constantly improve them and make them better at their jobs and get them the resources they need to be successful. And that's going to make the whole company successful. And you hit that in a high note. And I want to draw that out for people because it's obviously a belief of yours. And then you talk about the recurring performance reviews. Now, this is generally a part of the job most leaders don't like. I kind of hate to sit down and tell you that, hey, you could improve here, and hey, this is great, keep that up. How often should we be doing those performance reviews? Once a year, twice a year, every other week? What do you recommend to truly foster that solid team?
I firmly believe that these reviews should be as often as possible to an extent. So you don't want to make it so frequent that it's like they're hearing a broken record, but you want to make it frequent enough where they know they're being recognized and appreciated. But in the same sense, being a leader is like being a parent. You got to correct your kids. You've got to build them up where they need to be built up and address the problems where they need to be addressed. So waiting too long to do that is going to have less impact. Doing it frequently is going to help keep them comfortable knowing that you're there.
I like that a lot. So I'm going to give kind of an echo of what you do. So I'm in the accounting world with one of my companies, and what we do is we do a 3-time employee eval. We do the big annual eval, right, which has all the scoring and all that kind of stuff, and it results in raises and things like that, possible promotions. And then we have our 2 busy seasons, and we give what we call 2 busy season debriefs. And this is how you did during the busy season. And so ours is only 3 times a year, but I want to emphasize what you said too. Things need to happen in short, consistent. We call that keeping a record or short record of accounts, right? So
Yep.
if you've done something wrong, I don't want to linger till next year's performance review, right? I want to go ahead
Right.
and say, I noticed this happen. And then on the other time, hey, if you did something good, I don't want to wait till next year's performance review and say,
Yeah.
oh, we want to keep a short record of accounts. So I appreciate you saying that they need to happen in consistency and in relation to the events and the things that are going on. And then echoing one more time, if you do them all the time, they become redundant and basically worthless because it's like, okay, here's this week's performance review. So let's talk about that little training mark that you said, the development. So if a company is looking to really develop and get a tailored roadmap for themselves and for their staff, what goes into that so they can achieve that operational excellence?
To create a roadmap for operational excellence, companies should first assess their unique challenges and opportunities. Leaders must engage stakeholders at all levels to gain insight into pain points and potential solutions. With these insights, they can set specific, measurable objectives, establish timelines, and allocate resources correctly. By breaking down the roadmap into manageable steps, and reviewing progress regularly, companies can make adjustments as needed while staying focused on those long-term goals.
I like that. So do you have much experience with clients who just say, I feel like we're getting better. I feel like we've been growing over time. I feel like the bank account has a little bit more money in it than it did last year versus the success ratio and the probably, I'm going to guess, even exponential growth that people who set out a plan and stick to a plan with both their staff and their operations. Give me the difference in what you experience with your clients.
So something that I like to address very early on working with a client is what you feel and what you know are two very different things. When it comes to metrics of success, I care about what you know. So don't come to me with what you feel the health of the business is. Come to me with what you know the health of the business is. We got to look at facts. So being very well aware of where you stand is extremely important, but it's a consistent thing I see with smaller businesses that haven't fully developed yet.
Gotcha. I like that. I like that. Specific steps. Yeah. Don't come to me with what you feel. Come to me with what you know. Metrics. I like that. Okay. I hope everyone heard that. All right. So moving along with that, and this might be a good time for the audience to get their pens ready. So give me some practical steps. Give us some practical steps that the leaders can take to really enhance the employee engagement. And then, of course, the operational performance will increase because of that. So what is a step? Or maybe if you're just going to say, hey, there's a ton of steps, but here's one big one that I want you guys to write down because you can go home and do it today. Talk about some of those steps, those practical steps.
So employee engagement really thrives when individuals feel valued, empowered, and connected to the company's goals. Transparency is so, so important. They've got to be able to see what the ship is steering towards. Leaders can enhance this engagement by meaningful growth opportunities and recognizing achievements. It is extremely important to recognize where your team is winning. That showing them that you see that can completely change the narrative for a business.
Ooh, I like this a lot. So I'm hearing that if I'm going to go motivate somebody right now today, somebody in the audience can go home and say, Ryan told me to notice and recognize the achievements of my staff and my teams. So you go put on a calendar who knows, tomorrow's going to be Friday. So go put on a calendar for Friday, go identify, recognize, and promote this achievement, this success of my team member. And we're going to start seeing some changes. Is that what's going to happen?
Most definitely. The motivation is going to stick and it's going to spread like a wildfire in the business where they feel what they do is going to receive that recognition.
That is awesome. So another thing that we kind of do is we do these blanket recognitions. So we, in our non-busy season, we offer half-day Fridays. And half-day Fridays are conditional. Okay. So they're conditional on here's the amount of workload that has to be done in order to equal a half-day Friday. Now, half-day Friday means you go home at noon and I pay you for those 4 hours you're not here, right? It's not half-day vacation, it's paid. And so what happens is that little bit of competition, those teams go help each other out. Hey, Johnny, did you get your stuff done? Hey, Sally, did you get your stuff done? Hey, give me that document. I'll get you helped out. And we see that those recognitions are kind of competitively and fun earned. You know, what do you recommend as possible other initiatives that people can take to get that motivation going as well?
The healthy competition is so important. I like setting up metrics within a business, not to pit different departments and teams against each other,
right,
but to strive for exceptional achievement, receiving a reward. Incentives are powerful. It doesn't always have to be monetary incentive. It can be an event. It can be a plaque. It can be a trophy. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as you're able to build that healthy competitive nature between different teams to thrive in their own metrics.
I like that a lot. And like you said, the competition or the reward or the incentive doesn't have to just be, some time off or some more money. It could be something different. That just makes me think about if you guys have ever heard of or watched Shark Tank out there. One of the very famous Shark Tank people said the motivation that they had is if you reached X amount in sales, which was very challenging and difficult, you got to put a yellow ribbon on your office door and everyone knew you were that level of salesman. Well, eventually people strive for it. When the first person got it, there was a big ceremony and they placed the yellow ribbon on the door. And eventually everyone achieved yellow ribbons. And of course, the operational success went through the roof. So let me probably hit you with our last question of the night. And I want to talk about companies continuously adapting, because we talked about all these things that could possibly be changed or looked on. So give us an operational strategy that's going to let us stay competitive with the market, stay competitive so that we can ensure that future growth. Talk strategy.
Continuous adaptation requires an agile mindset and a commitment to staying informed about industry trends and customer needs. Regularly assessing performance data and being open to refining processes enables companies to stay responsive. Building flexibility into strategic plans allows businesses to pivot quickly when the market conditions change, helping them stay competitive and maintain sustainability.
I love what you just said about building in flexibility. If we build a plan that completely uses up every ounce of resource and time and all of our bandwidth, well, then how flexible could we really be? Now, that is a great thing for people to know. So here's what I want to do as we get to wrapping up the night. So Ryan, you have really dropped some serious wisdom and value into this. I guarantee people are going to somehow want to talk to you, know more, and use your services. Where can somebody find you and get a hold of you?
Really easy ways to find me are Ryan Herpin on LinkedIn, my website, impactstrategyc.com. Those are two fast, quick, easy ways to find me. And I'm available 24/7, especially for emergency needs. Sometimes that happens with businesses, but feel free to reach out. I do free consultations and I'm always willing to listen to somebody's strategy.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. And for everyone else out there watching Pivotal Change, remember, we had a lot of talk about branding and being your unique, authentic self, and then being an adaptable and transparent leader with the best ways to ensure that long-term strategy and growth. So what we do is need to reflect on ourselves all the time. And I want you to go out there and see the change and be the change. And we will catch you next week on Pivotal Change.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.